Good afternoon. I'm Danielle Shenk in the 1011 Now Alert Center with your weekly consumer safety spotlight. Joining me once again is Josh Planos with the Better Business Bureau. How's it going today, Josh?
It's going well, Danielle. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. It's been a little bit since we've been able to catch up, but what better than to talk about a 2025 report for the whole state of Nebraska?
Yeah, we ran a report on our scam tracker intake form. That's bbb.org/scam tracker, which found that the reports that we received jumped 82% to 871 cases. Now, 871 cases means different things to different people, but we do at least spot check all of these reports. So if somebody has an experience that sounds like they just had, kind of a bad day, but it didn't involve a scam, that of course is not going to appear on our platform. And that 871 cases, that's just what was reported by Nebraska area victims. The real number is exponentially greater than that, which is why every time we present a figure, there is an asterisk next to it that signifies the actual damage of the experience is infinitely greater. But that's, actually a separate but related topic.
Yes, and so 82%, quite the jump in scam reports. What do you think is driving the surge that there are more scams happening, that more people are reporting, maybe both?
Yeah, I do think it's a bit of both. And you could look at that number and say the sky is falling. And to a degree, the amount of scam related activity that we monitor does not suggest that the scams are in any way subsiding. But I attempt to flip that coin and see the positive side of that, which is that more people than ever are coming forward and reporting their experience, which is absolutely the ultimate goal. The only way that scammers thrive is when things are kept into the dark. But when folks bring that information into the light, suddenly people are more open to talking about their experience. The stigma is removed. People are more aware. People are more educated about what it is that it's actually impacting their community. And there is undeniably a positive aspect to that. On another point, though, I will say that the degree to which these scam efforts are scaled is light years beyond what we have seen in previous years. AI, of course, has something to do with that. But also, I think for a long time, scam prevention was lodged as something that really impacted seniors or people with discretionary income. And the reality that this report bears out is that young people are really the new target.
Hmm.
Reports from those between 18 and 24, those increased almost 5 times over year. So we used to think that this is something that, is maybe more likely to impact our grandparents. And really, this is something that is impacting our children, right? This is something that is impacting people on college campuses. Criminals are exploiting the very platforms that these generations of folks use. Your Instagram, your Venmo, your Facebook Marketplace. This is something that is really present and something that needs to be addressed right now, not just for the seniors, but really for all demographics.
Absolutely. And so financial losses top about $415,000 in Nebraska. So, what are some of the scams that are costing people the most? And as you mentioned, young adults most at risk here.
Yeah, the big three that we saw were phishing. So those are fake text messages or emails that are pretending to be your bank or that UPS delivery driver. We've seen a lot of online purchase scams where you pay for a product, you never get the product, or you get a counterfeit product. And we've also, interestingly enough, seen a lot of employment fraud with fake job offers that require upfront fees. Now, to a degree, some of this mirrors what people will bring to, say, the Better Business Bureau to report on the scam side versus, say, the Lincoln Police Department. It stands to reason that employment fraud would likely be more reported to the BBB than maybe some of these other agencies that maybe have less to do specifically with businesses. But I will say that we have seen exponentially more employment related fraud activity in the past 3 years, basically in the time since COVID, than we have in the previous 25. And that's really because there's a lot of remote opportunities, a lot of opportunities that have, at least the way they're presented, incredible salaries or incredible benefit arrangements, but really are not real jobs to begin with. And some of that has to do, Danielle, with the trust that we have, whether it be in a LinkedIn, whether it be in an online marketplace, that really, frankly, needs to be earned. I would hope that in 2026, one takeaway that I have from reading this report is that we need to make businesses earn it a little bit more than we have been to this point, because it's very easy to prop up an illegitimate enterprise. It's really incumbent upon the consumer to know that that business is in fact a business and does have an established track record before we provide a resume or credit card information or really any personal information at all.
Hmm. And so I'll show some figures from this report here, but what kind of stands out the most to you from whether it's the losses, maybe the youth at risk, or the surge in reports? What stands out to you the most?
To me, the surgeon reports, because I really do take an optimistic perspective on that, and I believe that is earned. The amount of reports that we had that didn't involve any amount of money lost is incredibly encouraging. You mentioned that $400,000 figure. Again, one of the figures we present that has an enormous asterisk, because if you've followed the Lancaster County Sheriff's Office, who does kind of weekly updates, you can say that some of their reports seem even larger than the aggregate total of what has been reported to us. Some of that is folks don't report to multiple cases. Some of that is that encouragingly, we've seen a lot of people reporting their experience when they didn't lose any money. To me, from my perspective, that is the most valuable type of report, because it's someone who thought enough to bypass that experience, to avoid that horrific experience, and still felt like it was necessary for them to bring that information forward to protect the public. Another thing, Danielle, that I would note is that uh, these scams really cover the gamut. They don't look one specific way, which when we wrote the report, we made it intentionally that way, because this is something that you cannot pigeonhole as, well, this impacts people who are looking for a new job. No, this impacts people who are looking for, in some cases, groceries. In some cases, they're looking for a holiday gift for a loved one. Yeah, in some cases they're looking for a new job, but in other cases they're looking to attend a concert, right? It's not something that is specific to one walk of life or one mode of entertainment. It's something that really does impact anything where money is transferring hands, which to be a consumer in 2026 is to know that money can change hands very quickly for any number of reasons. And it's never been easier to do that from the comfort of your own home.
Hmm. And so, what are some of the mistakes that you see young adults or even older adults making when it comes to those phishing scams, the online purchase scams, or employment scams? Those big
So I
three.
would say on the phishing side, because that was by and away the largest, most popular reported scam type that we monitored, was there is a real benefit of the doubt that is given to anybody who is communicating with folks of seemingly any age. What I mean by that is people will get a text message from someone who says that a package is on its way to your front door. And even if and maybe casually talk with folks about it's another day of getting a fake package delivery notice, there are so many people that are filling out those forms and just providing that information and just hoping that things go according to plan, or just hoping that that person was a legitimate representative of that organization. There is no reason to engage with anything that you feel even remotely concerned about the authenticity of. So again, making the businesses, making the people who are contacting you earn your understanding, earn your willingness to engage with them is imperative in 2026. Nearly all of these scams operated around the concept of urgency, right? So your account is going to be closed. This deal is going to end today. We're disconnecting your power if you don't do this. It is so difficult to slow yourself down in those situations, because it is a natural human instinct to want to address the matter immediately. But this is what scammers are after, right? There is a psychology at play. They want you to act before you think. So if somebody is rushing you to make a decision involving money, that is a red flag and something to steer clear of.
Hmm. And so, you mentioned this a little bit earlier too, but kind of talk about how artificial intelligence is making scams harder for consumers to kind of spot and avoid.
So for a long time, Danielle, what scam prevention looked like was kind of picking and choosing and finding little like grammatical mistakes, right? That would suggest that, well, if this criminal enterprise is started overseas, chances are there might be some miscues that kind of give away the thrust of the scam. Well, even if these scams are still in a lot of cases being perpetuated overseas, now you have you have chatbots that can formulate an email invoice that looks exactly like what you've expected for many, many years from, say, your preferred vendor of choice. So reaching out to a small business owner, pretending to be, the person who provides pens for that company. That is a type of report that we have received. And it looks like it's going to pass the smell test. You can also scale that effort exponentially, right? It used to be, right, you'd pick up the phone and you'd kind of cold call people. And now there is a treasure trove of data that is training those who are in these call centers, in a lot of cases, half a world away, who are preying upon people that they know information about, right? Maybe they know you're a fan of the Kansas City Chiefs. Maybe they know you're a little bit down on your luck. Maybe they know you're looking for a job. They are not coming into these interactions cold. They are coming into these interactions with a ton of information at their disposal. And if really what they need to do is check two or three boxes to get further along in the process to get you to open up, a checkbook or to access your online bank account, they have the data seemingly to do that, right? They have enough to pass the smell test. And we see that from fake websites to the kinds of calls that are reported to us, the types of emails that people receive. All of this communication is so well ironed out that it's not to say it's foolproof, but it is more challenging now, probably than ever before, to know what is a legitimate form of communication from what is something that is simply trained on publicly available data to pass the smell test.
Hmm. And so this report also highlights the very real human impact behind these numbers. There were quite a few listed in the report. What's the most eye-opening or heartbreaking scam that you've seen recently here in Nebraska?
Well, I would say, and this is something that we are going to see quite a bit in the next month in particular, but anything that involves, online romance or online dating is something that really does seemingly stay with the victim for, uh, in some cases, the rest of their life. It is something that is very difficult to move past in ways that, yes, it is devastating. I'm not going to get into the situation of evaluating one scam versus another, but you could understand why the emotional ties related to companionship would be incredibly deep and incredibly challenging to work past. The psychology of those scams, how long they take to frankly be effective for folks. I mean, you are talking about, in some cases, people have spent, many months of their life communicating with someone who wasn't that someone at all. And so I would say that anytime we see online romance related fraud, we know that is a horrific experience. That is something that is very difficult to move past. But I would also say that it's concerning to see that there are people between 18 and 24 who are navigating, being an adult for the first time in their life and are being met with scam related activity, right? I'm looking to rent an apartment. I don't know how that works. I'm from out of town. I don't know who I need to talk to. Those types of experiences are really challenging, and I am, incredibly grateful, and uh, I give a lot of respect to those who come forward with their story because I know that must be incredibly challenging. But those folks are still making it a point to turn something that is incredibly negative into something that can be incredibly protective for their community.
Hmm. And so, on top of the BBB providing tips and doing sit downs like this, you guys have also launched the Scam Survival Toolkit that launched last year. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how it's changed the way the BBB supports scam victims?
Yeah, so there are a lot of experiences that folks have. Anyone who's ever reported a scam, for instance, that feels like, maybe they share a bit about their story and maybe they're left to pick up the pieces afterward. Um, we cannot be in the business of solving all of these crimes, but we can be in the business of providing layers of support because these are layered experiences. It's not just about preventing scams, it's about dealing with what actually happens after. So we worked with mental health counselors, we worked with law enforcement agencies, we worked with bank account representatives to develop what is a toolkit. So you do need to provide some information, right? What type of scam you experienced, because the next steps will vary based on what it is that you did experience. But it will walk you through some actionable things that you can do to move past the experience, or at least get your arms around the entirety of the experience. We hear from people all the time who say, my bank account was compromised and I have not frozen my credit, or I've not alerted that bank, or I have not reached out to a counselor, even though I do feel like there is a mental health component to this. That is alarming, right? Scams impact people emotionally, psychologically, and there are some real things that you do need to do to get your arms around what it is that is actually compromised when your information gets in the hands of someone with ulterior motives. So this is a toolkit that again is designed to what it is that you actually experienced, and providing some actionable next steps that will at least be able to remedy some of the multitude of things that are occurring for that person, from freezing your credit to accessing mental health resources. So we feel like this is a useful tool for folks to not only have the opportunity to report their experience, but also know where to turn after that report has been submitted.
Hmm. Now, if Nebraskans who are listening to this remember just one thing that they can take away one thing from this entire report, what should it be?
I would say it's the importance of reporting. I think it's horrifying on a human level that we can't go seemingly 24 hours without experiencing a scam to one degree or another. And I think casually, in a lot of circles, that gets written off as kind of a comedic experience. I can't believe these things are happening. I think it's incredibly alarming that this is something that societally we cannot seemingly get our arms around, that this does not need to be a part of the equation, that this is unacceptable. And I would hope that folks, when they see and hear about these segments that we do regularly, they hear the humanity of what is being reported, which is that this is something that is happening, and almost by definition, Danielle, this is not something that you are only experiencing yourself. This is something that has been scaled, that has been felt by many, many others. Maybe they're people you love or care about. Maybe they're people you don't know at all. But the reality is, these scams are being felt by a lot of people in our community. And the only way that we're going to feel protected and educated is by bringing that information forward. Again, Scam Tracker is a very useful tool. It takes 2.5 minutes to file a report. You can be kept completely anonymous. So do not feel like by reporting you are somehow putting up a billboard on 27th and Vine saying this was my experience. No, you are merely putting that information into the internet, and that information can be used to publicly protect other people from going through that experience. So 2.5 minutes, I know that's time that you don't get back, but I believe that is time that is worth protecting others with.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we've been talking a lot about the aftermath of scams and what to do if you've been scammed. But can you give us some quick tips here on what to do before getting scammed? How to avoid those scams? Some easy things to remember.
I would say make that company or that entity earn your trust. Trust is such a valuable commodity, and it is just handed out regularly. There is a Midwestern component, but there is also a component that frankly needs to be addressed right away, right? There are simple protection steps, things like verifying that independently, whether you got an email from someone that allegedly is your bank asking you, this is an opportunity for you to have a conversation with your bank. Call them back, use the number on your card. What's great about credit cards, on the back of all of them, it has that contact information. You know exactly who you need to call with. Um, Research before you buy. If it's a company that you've never heard of before, doesn't matter if you're buying it on TikTok Shop or on Amazon, right? You want to check them out on BBB.org. If they don't have a proven track record, not deserving of your personal and your payment information. And then trust your gut. This has been a foundational aspect of scam prevention for more than a generation. If something feels off, it probably is. So a lot of us are looking for a golden ticket. A lot of us are looking for a discount that we just can't find anywhere else. Sometimes that is not a real golden ticket. Sometimes that isn't something that is real to begin with at all. So trust your instincts, do some research, and ensure that you have multi-factor authentication on your devices. that is going to get you out of a lot of hairy situations.
Absolutely. So, Josh, any final thoughts on this report before I let you go?
Just one thing I would underline, Danielle, is everybody's story matters. You know, we get reports from people who lost $5, people who lost $5,000. Both of those stories are valuable. Both of those stories uh, are deserving of attention, are deserving of oxygen. Filing reports is an act of courage and community protection, and I hope folks feel that way. I hope they feel empowered when they bring that information forward because we need Nebraskans who are looking out for each other. And every single time we receive a report, all 871 of those reports, that is something that has been done to protect someone else from going through it. And I would hope folks in 2026 take it upon themselves to provide the kind of community protection that we all can, because you don't need a PhD from scam school to be part of a movement. You just need to have a voice and you need to speak up when you see something.
All right, Josh, some wise words there. Thanks as always for joining us.
Thank you, Danielle.
Now, you can stay tuned to our website and follow us on all our social platforms. Make sure to download our app on Roku for the latest news of the day from wherever you are. We'll see you on the next stream.
1011 News is everywhere. Download our smart TV apps and follow us on social media at 1011 News.